I thought we were done.
That was just a different off-topic question.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. I heard that bass in you for the most part.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Welcome.
Bum, bum, bum.
Alrighty. Well, we're going to have a little chat today. Just about, as the title suggests, how to find the right life/business partner, or at least how we think and how I've gone about it, I think. Excuse me, a little burp.
Bless you.
Thanks. And I think I was thinking about this a fair bit leading up to this today, just because it was an idea that I had and I thought it would be cool to do. I think the biggest thing, it all boils down to being intentional. Because the things that stem from that, like knowing what you want from a life or business partner and knowing what you need in a life or business partner. And then if you're intentional about what you want, then all of the actions and what to do basically become apparent from that. So, yeah. And I guess we can go into the example of our story, but I just thought I'd get some of Yana's thoughts about that, the right life/business partner for you.
Well, I feel like an obvious one, but a kind of hard one to address as well, especially for women, is actually knowing what you want. Like a lot of us I see this play out a lot where a lot of women tend to wait for something or someone to come and save them, or it's like, oh, if I find the right person, they'll be able to tell me what I want and it'll coincidentally be that person, right? And so it's like this kind of complex that we have because, I mean, let's face it, it's kind of in our DNA to want to be supported and want to be, I guess, taken care of and provided for. It's like, as someone who is very, I guess, masculine when I'm in my workflow, like I'm very organized and I tend to do things more in a masculine way, I still crave that. And a lot of like what you see is I don't need a man, or I don't need a man, because I'm speaking to my own experience. It's like it actually comes from a wounded place of not actually receiving the support and not actually being provided for in the way that I believe men are supposed to, just biologically. Like, I know it's science, so don't come at me, but if you do come at me with some facts. Don't be all up in your feelings. But yeah, that's what I believe. It's actually like a lot of the independence comes from like a wounded place, and it's like we don't allow ourselves to open up to that possibility because we've been hurt before, and it's a protection mechanism. But I just think it's knowing what you want and being unapologetic about it. So, you know, that might mean that if you go on dates and like maybe the gentleman has paid for the dates, and just if you feel that the vibe is off, like not feeling obligated to continue that relationship just because, oh, but they were so nice. You know, like a lot of us have those people-pleasing tendencies. And so it's really just time to like get to know yourself first and then get to know what you want. That's pretty much my advice. Even though I probably sound a little bit like a hypocrite, because I was definitely in a phase of my life where I wouldn't say that I was getting to know myself, but I definitely knew what I didn't want. And so that gave me a good starting point to find and to discover what I actually wanted in a partner, in a life partner, I guess. But yeah. Yeah. I was just so fascinated by that. Anyway, that's my thoughts. And that could be a good place, actually, building on that could be a good place to start. If you don't know what you want, start with what you don't want. Because at least then you're starting and you're getting a clear picture of what you do want. Anyway.
I like that. I like it. I like it. Yeah. So I actually think that's pretty similar to obviously what I was saying before. One is here. Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes down to being intentional as soon as you can, as soon as that awareness comes through. Like when you suddenly become aware when you're a kid. Apparently some people have that moment. I do not remember when that happened to me. I was probably like 18 or something like that. Anyway, but that awareness and that active decision to be intentional about going for what you want, I think is really, really essential for finding the right life or business partner and for really doing anything in life. Some people put it as like, what problem are we trying to solve? Like, what's the actual thing that we're trying to solve for? Because then you can ask the right questions and the solution becomes apparent from asking those questions. So for example, at the time when I was getting to know Yana, I knew that at that period of time, what I was looking for in life was a life partner who I wanted to get married to and spend the rest of my life with. And for me, particularly as someone who is a Christian, I have a different, potentially different understanding of what marriage is. And marriage isn't something for me that is like, oh yeah, we get married, it's a thing on a piece of paper, and yeah, if we want to change and bail out, then it's a divorce kind of thing. It's not that. For me, it's like, it's much higher than that. It's basically an eternal spiritual connection that you have to someone, and something that you do to tie yourself spiritually to someone before God. So for me, that's very powerful. And understanding that means that obviously it needs to be the right person. Can't just be anyone like, oh yeah, I'll kind of find out and see how it all goes. So from the get-go, I'll be honest, I don't have a problem with it, but I was talking to a few different people, a few different girls around the time that I met with Yana. Some messaged me, I messaged them first, and then that kind of thing. But there was a lot of catching up and being very intentional.
What? You messaged them first?
Some of them.
I didn't know that. Alright.
Yeah. Well, there was that. It's just getting to know people. Just relationship building or like getting to know people. And that's it, really. I didn't message a lot of them first. So yeah, even at the time of doing that, it was very much like not superficial. I knew that was the goal, to see who would be the right kind of person. So the conversations were deep. They were confronting myself. Things that I knew I was looking for and were important to me were someone who could think deeply and think critically, someone who could challenge myself and themselves to think deeper and better, and like not be attached to like just the way of thinking like as it has been up until then, and likes to think about bigger topics, as well as wants to have a bigger impact on the world and not just, live day to day. It's very much about doing some big things. Another thing for me is very important for them to be Christian, and that's a whole nother topic in and of itself. But if I can summarize, it would essentially be because of what my belief of a marriage, what I believe marriage to be, which is, as I've talked about before. So very much needed someone to be on the same page, regardless of if we have kids or anything like that. That's my essential spiritual connection. Thanks, Wani. Looking leaner. That's the plan. Yeah. So that was a lot of stuff there. So I mean, to highlight, I guess, how I went about doing that, I had the deeper conversations. Like the first time Yana and I met, it was very intense. Like I'm a pretty intense guy. If you know me personally, I love to like go deep on topics. From the get-go, like, yeah, there are the formalities and being nice and that kind of thing, but I tend to go deep. And for example, when Yana and I first met, one of the first deep topics that we went into, I was like, what are your thoughts on abortion and like the morality of abortion in relation to Christianity and that kind of thing? So that was a big thing.
No, you didn't put it in the context of Christianity.
Oh, as in that's how I talked about it.
Yeah, well.
How I related to.
Because you didn't know.
I knew what I thought.
Yeah, but you didn't know I was a Christian at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's... Yeah, I didn't know Yana was Christian, but as in, like, I was talking about it through the lens of Christianity, like what my thoughts were on the topic as well, and asking what your thoughts were on the topic. Maybe I didn't word that properly just then. But yeah. So there was that. Topics of abortion, adoption, Christianity as well we went into a little bit. Potentially on the first time we met? No. Okay. So, yeah, and that was like big. We caught up and we chatted for ages. And I think a big thing there was like, that's how I was with pretty much everyone. Like if I was thinking about something that was a bigger topic, I would ask them and I'd go deep and I'd challenge them and be like, what do you think about this? What do you mean by that? Like, how did you come to that line of reasoning, and like push and go deep? So I wouldn't talk about a bunch of superficial stuff. I would like to go deep on like one or two really hard hitting, big, important things is how I see it. And I like to do this even with the people that I keep close to me. And I want to see if people can hang with that and like if they can actually rise up to that and if they want to even do that. Because, fun fact, when I first met Yana, she didn't have too many thoughts on the topic. It was very like, what are you talking about, man? But...
Well, we were sitting in a bubble tea shop and there was this guy just like asking me these like soul-searching questions and I was like, this is not the place, dude.
yeah. Oh, I remember another thing I asked was like, what do you think about right before you go to bed at night? I was like, what runs through your mind? Asking questions like that. Just because I find that kind of stuff interesting. And I'm not really... I don't know. I very much value my time and did at the time as well. And I like to be intentional about things, as I've said before. So if I had a topic... Someone farted. Timmy farted. If I had a topic that I wanted to talk about, I would just talk about it. And if someone didn't want to talk about it, I just wouldn't hang out with them that much. Like, that's just how I was and how I still am, because I'm not really interested in having, like, superficial chats. And I know a lot of people say that, but then their actions don't align with that. They'll go out and they'll have lots of superficial chats with people. And, yeah, it's very hard to, I guess, because some people, if they think about what they really want... On the surface, they might say, oh, yeah, I want to, just a girlfriend or a boyfriend, someone to hang out with. But if they dig a few layers deeper to what they really want at their core, a lot of us want the same thing. I think all of us actually want the same thing. And obviously I can go into why that is. But I think that a lot of us crave like a true spiritual, physical, emotional... You okay? Yeah. Intimacy. So I think that's really important. And if you understand that, then you can understand how we operate on a surface level to get that. And a lot of the time it's like we talk about superficial things, we develop more connection through that. But a lot of the time, the way we develop that connection is misguided. So it's like, a lot of time it's like through hookup culture or like going and living with someone first and then being like, it's like, I think this highlights it well, but something I've said for a while is I think the current way of relationships is quite flawed and doesn't really set most people up for success. Meet the person, date them, get physical, have sex, do that kind of thing, live together.
Probably not allowed to say that word.
Okay, live together for a while, maybe a year, get engaged, be engaged for a year or two, and then get married. So it's very much like this structure that if you think about it, I don't think it really suits getting a genuine life partner, because when you mix that physical intimacy of physically being intimate, if I'm not supposed to say that word, some coitus, then that's where like you can confuse that physical intimacy, that superficial intimacy, that closeness, just a very close, like literally it's just being close to a person and like being able to sleep, like just sleep and wake up next to someone. Like we all want that with the right person. But if you do that very early on, you can end up confusing more often than not. Yeah, you can confuse that intimacy for getting that deep emotional, spiritual intimacy that we really do crave, to have a life partner and someone to love and cherish that way. So it's like if you go into it and do that side of things, then that's flawed. So from the jump, that was my thinking back then, and it still is now.
I think it's also instant gratification. Like it's much easier to connect on superficial topics and to get that hit of like, I guess, dopamine from like, oh, there's someone I can connect with, and you are instantly gratified. Whereas it's like, okay, society has kind of trained us where, because we crave instant gratification, but we also crave connection, it's almost like no one has the patience to sit through 1,000 conversations if it means that the 1,001st person is going to be someone they truly deeply connect with. And it's like almost because of that, everyone's trained then by the system to not really think deeply about things, and it plays into what the government
We're going there, are we?
No, we'll probably get banned. Have to make up code words.
Yeah, the G's.
Top G.
The top G's. Top G.
Yeah, it's just like, it's not. Well, if you think about the way that society runs today, it's very like, the way that 9 to 5 is set up. I don't think if people truly knew what they could do with their lives and like how powerful they actually are, and like just in having choice, I don't think there'd be so many people unhappy in their 9 to 5s. That's just my personal opinion. But we are conditioned and trained by the spies, the men in black, if you will. The men in black who kind of want you to stay into that system and feed into that system because it serves them. Anyway, that was very off topic from relationships.
Big tangent. No, I think that's huge, because it's essentially like you can have the same issue, which is that being intentional, realizing you have that choice and like sticking with that and doing the harder thing, delaying the gratification. You can see how that basically pops up in relationships. You can see how that pops up in your livelihood or the way you choose to live. The jobs you get, how you act, how your relationships are with your family, that kind of thing. So I think that's it's kind of like the core issue, and then you can see how it presents in different ways on the surface. Different levels, different layers, like an onion. Onion ring. So. I forgot what I was going to say.
Sorry.
Onion rings. Yeah. So when we operate in that way, going back to what I was saying before about relationships, when you take that more instant gratification, you can build a connection with someone that it's basically built on an illusion that you're getting what you truly want, but you're only getting a part of what you want through a part of what you're doing. And it's very misguided. And the thing is, it's harder to do because you have to be that guy who has the odd conversations. And a lot of the time when you hear people being like, oh, why aren't girls like this and that? It's because like you're not either. Like, what kind of conversations are you having with people? Are you playing a game? Are you trying to be surface level with all of this stuff? Because if you are, that's exactly the kind of person you're going to attract and have around you. So by being intentional, you won't talk to as many people. And the quality of conversation is going to be much higher with the people that you do keep talking with, because there might be people that you talk about these topics and they're like, I don't like this, I'm not going to talk to you about it. Or I don't like what you have to say, I don't really want to hang out with you. It can push people away, that kind of thing. So I think you attract the right people by being intentional. And it's not a lot of people, because not a lot of people want to do it. Like, it's difficult to do. And at the time that I was talking to Yana, she wasn't really like that either. She was like, I don't really want to think about stuff too much. This is hard. I want to party. I want to do my thing. And talk to people like that. And, like, I'm not judging, because I've been there as well. And the point of me being intentional like that wasn't to be like, I need someone who's exactly at the same spot that I am at in life right now. But if that awareness was brought to someone, what were they going to do about it? Would they be the right kind of person that they'd want to grow and develop and do things together? And I think that's a big part of it as well, whether it's a business or life partner, is having that intuition and trusting that, because I do think that is something that comes from God, to be like, is this the right person? You know, because on paper you could be like, yeah, some of the stuff didn't make sense at the time, right then and there, but intuitively there was something that just drew me back to Yana, and you know, so yeah, just a feeling, because I was in love. Yeah, so I think that's really important. And then if you just, like, that's the principle. If you just take that and run with it, being intentional, all the actions will be in accordance with that. And being active about that is another big thing. But then also all of the outcomes are a result of that intentionality, that being active about things. And yeah, it's isolated. Like, it's lonely at the top, you know, or lonely where you want to get for some people. But, you know, if you're intentional about it, you will find the right people around you. And same goes for business partners, is looking at being intentional about it. Like, what do I need from my business partner? What do I actually need? Not just what do I want. Do I just want someone to, like, shelve off responsibility to? Because if that is what you're trying to do, you could get an assistant to do that or something like that. And that's not really what a business partner should be. They should have strengths that complement your strengths. And this is very much like the relational side of things as well. I think if you're intentional about it, you can also know the type of relationship that you're going to have to a degree. Like with Yana and I, even business-wise, we are both very much on the same page. Obviously, being business and life partners, that's a pretty big thing. Because we both understand that there are different seasons to go through for business and life as well. And like the mix, the mix, I wouldn't even say the balance. The mix of the two is going to vary. Like the which one gets prioritized more so is going to vary depending on the season. Like right now we're in what Yana and I call like a grind season. Like we're really pushing hard to make some business. We refer to it as that. Yeah. It's like a grind. I'm not saying I coined the term. What Yana and I call? What Yana and I refer to as a... The greasin. Yeah. That doesn't sound right.
The hussies. Grindies. I have to come up with a proprietary name. TM.
TM.
So none of that, because that's all mine.
Yeah.
Marketing. Business.
Business. Yeah. So, life partner-wise... Sorry, business partner-wise. Yeah, having that understanding, you could be like, oh, you guys are so lucky that you have that understanding, you're fortunate. But I don't think so. I think we're both very intentional about our relationship and how we've been building it. We've had those talks, even if they're not harder talks. It's just being like, what's your role? What's my role? What are we trying to do here? Like, what?
Sometimes hard talks.
What's this? Yeah. I'm saying sometimes hard, but not they're not always hard. But yeah, sometimes being like.
Sorry, that was meant to mean.
Yeah, I know.
Let's go.
Okay. So, having those hard chats sometimes, or just those intentional conversations, sometimes they'll be hard, sometimes they'll be easy, sometimes maybe good.
I think this is us done. I don't think.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap it all up and bring it together. Yeah, sometimes there'll be different seasons. Being intentional about it, Yana and I have allowed ourselves to build the kind of relationship where we have an understanding. We can be like, hey, we want to work till like 9 p.m. at night, and then hang out for a little bit afterwards, or maybe work for like 3 weeks straight and not really do too many date nights. And that's not what we're doing right now. But through being intentional, we've been able to build that. And through being intentional with our relationship, we've been able to get to a point where we're still working on it. We always work and grow to become better. We are living a life that we want to. We're intentional about that as well. Our roles as husband and wife, our roles as man and woman in our marriage. Me more so as the provider, the safety, that kind of thing, and Yana more so as my side piece. Nah, just joking.
My arm candy.
Yana more so as the as my wife. So she takes care of me, and then also allows us to thrive and play and like lean into being more of a wife, more of the woman's role in a marriage, and even which is making me my food. Nah, because I make you your food and that. Well, I think we have an interesting dynamic in that as well. In that you, for example, handle the difficult stuff like the finances and that kind of thing. So it's like
I'm the cash cow.
The cash cow, yeah. But even with what I do, is like I give us the ability to be safe physically, like making sure the house is safe, making sure Yana's safe, the boys are safe, all of that. Both sets of boys. But even safe from a financial standpoint, like I'm the minimum. But through that minimum and that baseline, that allows Yana to be in a position where it's like, how can we go beyond this financially, life-wise, and all of that? And without Yana pushing me to do that, even, we wouldn't live the lifestyle. We wouldn't earn as we do, which is, a result of the lifestyle and the choices. But yeah, it's basically someone to provide safety, security, and then Yana is the one to take us up and up and up and thrive and be the cash cow, as our pastor refers.
Heifer.
The heifer. I don't know if that's derogatory, but all right.
Oh.
Oops. But I mean, you called yourself it, so.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, yeah, that's a big thing.
Maybe just got our pastor in trouble.
Oops. Anyway, being intentional. That's a big thing when it comes down to the swing of things.
With everything.
With everything, yeah. And I know that sounds very bland, but hopefully we've shown at a core level how that looks, why that's important as well, and then on a surface level, how that presents, and how to actually use that to your advantage and create a life that you have the choice to be able to create. So yeah, I think we'll just wrap that one up there.
I want to give an example, and it just came in my head because so this is during a meeting with our team, and what I like to do is I like to celebrate like the things that they've done well in the past week. And when it came down to it, I think like only 2 things. Like, so I challenged them to find 3. But like between the 2 of them, like my 2 leaders, they only came up with 2, right? So I should have gotten 6, but they only came up with 2. So what I said to them that I think is very applicable is like, sometimes we look back and we want to find the things that we did well, but the reason we are often disappointed and feel like we're not doing enough is actually because we're not intentional enough to notice when we're doing things well, right? We're just working on autopilot. So it's like your life should not be just lived in retrospect, where you try and remember, what did I do well, what can I be proud of? But it's like, if you go into it proactively with the mindset of, how can I actually live this moment, live this experience, or do this task that I've been given to do, with the intention of looking back in time and going, I did that really well. And I think that's a super cool reframe, if I do say so myself, is like, instead of looking back retrospect, retrospectively. You look forwards, but with a retrospective frame. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. That's all. That's all. Hello to the people that just joined.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah.
Catch you on the flippity flip.
Catch yous on the flippity flop. Flippity flop.
It was a good one, so you should go back and rewatch it.
Yeah. So this replay will be out and available.
And if you watch it on a laptop, you can speed it up. Double speed.
Double
so
speed,
we'll
baby.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. To summarize, be intentional, which comes down to knowing what you want. Really think about it. Dig 6-7 layers deep on what you truly want at a core level, and then act in a way. Ask yourself, how would I get that, and then act that way, and that's it. And follow through when it gets hard. Follow through and understand that the gratification, the reward, is significantly greater and in the long term, and only achievable if you do that. It is not possible to have the gratification in the long term, I do not think, if you constantly gratify in the short term. Anyway, that's all for this one. Be intentional, get money, get a good wife, get a good life. Bye.